Context is hugely important in data, not just in graph data, but across the board, particularly when you're talking about health data. Context matters. Take this very simple statement. I never said you stole the data. I could change the context of the statement just by where I put my inflection. I never said you stole the data. I never said you stole the data. I never said you stole the data. So again, each context drives a variation, each inflection drives a variation of meaning to this one simple sentence. And so it is with data in a broader context. No pun intended. So dimensions of context. A lot of times in traditional data-oriented systems, we're really just concerned about what is the value of a piece of data. But when you start putting in data in context, you not only have to deal with the value of the data, you have to deal with the identity of who that data belongs to or what that data represents, as well as spatial and temporal dimensions or time and location dimensions become very, very important, and particularly as you're collecting data over time and over a number of locations. And then finally, in the context of activity and relationship, not only how data relates to other pieces of data, but maybe how an identity relates to a different community, all become very important in the notion of context. And next generation solution sets take this into account, not just recording the value of data, but also recording both its attributes and its meanings within the data object itself. And again, in our last webinar, we talked about this notion of context, and we talked context as well as trust. And trust is also a very valid and important dimension. Who or what created the data? How has the data been modified by whom? And as well as who has the rights to the data, and has it been validated by a third party? I think all are very important dimensions of trust, plus other questions. So context in terms of understanding what that data really represents, and trust in terms of, is it verified, or what's the level of degree I could trust source and origin and actual value within the data. Again, I refer you back to our last webinar. Amber spent a lot of time talking about these concepts. Please go re-listen to that if you haven't already. So how it all comes together in a bigger picture. So in reality, Edge provides context, the network provides trust, and AI provides understanding. And AI actually can provide a lot more than understanding. But for a simplicity perspective, kind of think about how all this stuff works together in these dimensions: Edge context, network trust, AI understanding.